UCLA Medical Center, Los Angeles, June 7, 1979, a Thursday afternoon. Room 949 on the 9th floor of the oncology wing. The room is quiet in the specific way that hospital rooms become quiet when everyone in them has accepted that the man in the bed is not going to leave it. The blinds are partially drawn. The afternoon sun falls in slow bars across the linoleum floor. There is a steady, soft sound of medical equipment. There is the smell of disinfectant and starched linen. There is a vase of yellow roses on the windowsill that someone brought yesterday and that no one has thought to remove. In the bed lies a man who weighs 148 pounds. 5 months ago he weighed 220. 3 years ago he weighed 248. He is 72 years old and he is dying of cancer. Stomach cancer that has now spread to almost everything else. He has 4 days left to live. He does not know this exactly, but he knows it approximately. He has been dying for a long time, and he understands the way it works. He is John Wayne, the most famous American actor of the 20th century, the man who carried the American imagination across the deserts of 3,000 westerns and through the smoke of 15 war films and into the bedrooms of 3 generations of Americans who fell asleep watching late-night television and woke up with the conviction that what John Wayne represented was somehow what they wanted to represent themselves. He is dying in a small room with yellow roses on the windowsill. Patrick Wayne is sitting in the chair beside the bed. Patrick is John's 3rd son. He is 39 years old. He has been a working actor for 20 years, mostly in his father's shadow. And he has loved his father with the specific, quiet, exhausted love of a son who has spent his life trying to be something his father could be proud of and never entirely figuring out whether he succeeded. He has been sitting beside this bed for 15 days. He will sit beside it for 4 more. A nurse enters quietly. She is a tall woman in her 50s named Margaret. She has worked the oncology floor at UCLA for 18 years, and she has watched many men of consequence pass through this corridor. She does her work calmly. She does not perform her sympathy. She has come to like John Wayne in the specific way that nurses come to like patients who do not complain and who thank them by name. She checks the IV. She checks the monitors. She adjusts the pillow behind Wayne's head with the kind of small, precise care that no one but the people who do it ever notice. Wayne opens his eyes. He has been sleeping for 2 hours. He looks at Patrick. He looks at Margaret. He looks at the window where the yellow roses are catching the afternoon light. He says, in the voice that everyone in America has known their entire lives, the voice that has carried through saloons and across deserts and into the houses of 3 generations of moviegoers, but quieter now. Much quieter than it has been on any screen, he says, Patrick, I need paper and a pen, and I need you to write something down for me. Patrick looks up. He says, Pop, you should rest. Wayne shakes his head. He says, I've rested. I need to do this. Now. Patrick stands. He goes to the small desk by the window. He finds a yellow legal pad. He finds a pen. He sits back down beside the bed. He puts the pad on his knee and clicks the pen open. He says, Okay, who is it to? Wayne does not answer immediately. He looks at the ceiling for a long time. Then he says, Linda Lee Cadwell, Sandpoint, Idaho. Patrick stops with the pen above the paper. He says, Pop, who is Linda Lee Cadwell? Wayne smiles. It is the slow, asymmetrical smile that has been on movie screens for 40 years, but now it is on a hospital pillow, and now it does not look the same. He says, she's the widow of a man who was a better man than most of us. You remember Bruce Lee? Patrick nods slowly. He says, of course. Wayne says Linda is his wife. Was. She lives up in Idaho now. With their boy, Brandon. He's 14. Patrick says, Pop, how do you know where she lives? Wayne says, just write what I tell you. Patrick writes. He writes Linda's name. He writes the Sandpoint address as Wayne dictates it from memory. He underlines the address. He waits. Wayne closes his eyes. He breathes carefully for a minute. He is gathering himself. The cancer has reached the place where every breath costs him something, and where he has learned to spend his breath only on things that he has decided are worth the cost. He says, Start the letter, Dear Mrs. Cadwell. Patrick writes. Wayne continues, I'm writing this in a hospital bed in Los Angeles. I don't have much time left. The doctors haven't told me, but I know it, and they know I know it. So I'm writing things I should have written 6 years ago. He pauses. He takes a slow breath. Your husband Bruce died on July 20th, 1973. I read about it the next morning in the LA Times. I was 66 years old. I had known him for almost 2 years. We had met on The Tonight Show in February of '71. There was an incident. He was a gentleman about it. We had dinner 4 times in the following 2 years. We talked about horses and the studio system and the meaning of courage in 2 different cultures. He became my friend. I never told anyone we were friends. He never told anyone either. Some friendships are private. Ours was. Patrick is writing fast now. He is keeping up because his father is dictating slowly. He glances up once at his father's face and then back down at the paper. He does not say anything. Wayne continues. When he died, I did not come to the funeral. I should have. I was afraid of what people would write. I was afraid of being asked questions I could not answer because the answers were private. I sent flowers without a card. I drove past the funeral home in my truck and I parked across the street for 2 hours, and I watched people I did not know go in and come out. Then I drove home. I have regretted this for 6 years. I want you to know this. Margaret, the nurse, is standing very still by the door. She is supposed to be checking on another patient. She is not moving. She is listening. Wayne continues. 2 weeks after your husband died, I went to my lawyer's office on Wilshire Boulevard. I set up a trust. The trust is in the name of a holding company, so that you would not know it was me. The trust has been depositing money into an account every month for the past 6 years. The money was for Brandon's education. Whatever school he chooses, wherever he goes, the money will continue to be deposited after I am dead. My estate has been instructed. Brandon will never lack for tuition. I want you to know this also, but I do not want Brandon to know it. He should believe the money came from his father, who left more behind than people realized. Let him believe his father provided for him, because in a way his father did. His father is the reason I provided it. Patrick has stopped writing. He looks up at his father. He says, "Pop." Wayne says, "Keep writing." Patrick writes. Wayne continues. I am not a sentimental man, Mrs. Cadwell. You probably know this from my films and from my interviews and from the things people say about me, which are mostly true. But your husband was the only man I ever met who I wanted to learn from. I am 66 in my heart and 72 on the calendar, and I am dying in a hospital bed, and I want you to know that the most important thing I ever did in my life was sit on a couch beside a man I did not understand and watch him be everything I had been told a man like him could not be. I was wrong about a lot of things. I am ashamed of a lot of things I said in my younger years. I will not list them here. You know what they are. Your husband never made me apologize for them. He just sat next to me and was who he was. That is the strongest kind of correction a man can offer another man. I have spent 6 years trying to live up to it. The room is completely silent, except for the soft sound of the medical equipment. Patrick is writing in small, careful handwriting because his father's words are arriving slower now, and he wants to get every one of them down exactly as they come. Wayne continues. Tell Brandon, when he is older, that there was a man who watched his father be brave on a Tuesday night in February 1971 and who decided in that moment to be a better man for the rest of his own life. Don't tell him my name. He doesn't need it. Just tell him there was such a man and that the man kept his word. That is enough for a boy to know about a stranger who loved his father. Wayne pauses for a long time. He breathes carefully. Then he says, Sign it. Sign it, Duke. That is what your husband called me. He never called me Mr. Wayne. He never called me John. Just Duke. He said it with the same respect he would have given anyone. I want you to remember it the way he said it. Patrick signs the letter. The pen makes a small sound as he writes the 4 letters. He looks up. His father's eyes are closed. His father is breathing slowly. His father is smiling slightly. Wayne says, very quietly, Don't read it back to me. Just send it. Today. Express delivery. I want her to have it within 48 hours. Patrick says, Pop? Wayne says, just send it. And Patrick, don't tell anyone about this. Not anyone. Not your mother. Not your brothers. This is between her and me and the boy. Patrick says, Yes, sir. Wayne falls back into sleep. Margaret, the nurse, leaves the room. She walks down the hallway to the supply closet. She closes the door behind her. She stands in the dark closet for 2 minutes. Then she returns to the floor and resumes her work. She does not tell anyone what she heard. She will tell only her husband, 3 years later, and only once, and only because her husband was watching a John Wayne Western on television and asked her if she had ever met him. Patrick takes the letter to the FedEx office on Wilshire that afternoon. He uses the address Wayne gave him. He pays for the fastest delivery. The clerk at the counter asks if he wants to insure it. He says yes, for $1. He does not want to draw attention. He pays in cash. He drives back to the hospital. He sits beside his father for the next 3 days. John Wayne dies on Monday morning, June 11, 1979, at 8:57 a.m. He is 72 years old. The country mourns him for 2 weeks. Every newspaper in America runs his photograph on the front page. Every late-night talk show pays tribute. The President of the United States issues a statement. Hollywood goes dark for 3 days. The funeral is private. 200 people attend. Linda Lee Cadwell receives the letter on Sunday, June 10th, the day before Wayne dies. She is at her small house in Sandpoint, Idaho, where she has lived with Brandon since 1975 when she could no longer bear staying in Los Angeles. She is 34 years old. Brandon is 14. He is at a friend's house for the afternoon. She is sitting in her kitchen drinking tea when the FedEx truck pulls into her driveway. She signs for the envelope. She does not recognize the return address. She takes the envelope into the kitchen and sits down at the table and opens it carefully. She reads the letter twice. The first time she reads it, she does not entirely believe it is real. The second time she reads it, she understands that it is. She sets the letter down on the table. She puts her hands flat on the table on either side of the letter. She does not move for a long time. The afternoon Idaho sun comes through the kitchen window and falls across the paper and across her hands. She does not cry immediately. The crying comes later, in the bathroom, with the door closed, while Brandon is still at his friend's house. The crying lasts for 40 minutes. When she comes out of the bathroom, she washes her face and combs her hair and starts dinner. When Brandon comes home, she makes him a meal, and they eat together, and she does not tell him about the letter. She never tells him. Wayne asked her not to, and she honored the request for the rest of her life. Brandon Lee grows up. He enrolls at Emerson College in Boston in 1983. He studies there for 2 years before leaving early to pursue acting in Los Angeles. He moves to California. He takes classes at the Lee Strasberg Theater Institute. His tuition at every step is paid in full by an anonymous trust whose source no one in the family ever traces. Linda Lee Cadwell understands the source. She does not say a word. Brandon becomes an actor. He builds a career. He is good. He is on the verge of being great. He is killed in a freak accident on the set of The Crow on March 31st, 1993, at the age of 28. He is buried beside his father in Seattle. Linda Lee Cadwell becomes a widow for the second time in her life, this time to her son. She keeps the letter. It is folded in an envelope at the bottom of a small wooden box on her dresser. She reads it once a year on June 7th, the anniversary of the day Wayne dictated it. She reads it on no other day. She has read it 46 times by the time of this telling. In her wooden box, beneath the letter, there is one more thing. It is a Polaroid photograph. It is dated in pencil on the back, February 9th, 1971, 12:30 a.m. The photograph shows 2 men shaking hands in an empty parking lot under orange security lights. One is enormous and silver-haired. The other is small and dark-haired. Both are smiling. Neither is wearing a hat. Linda found the photograph tucked inside the envelope with the letter. There was no explanation. There was no note, just the photograph. She understood without one. She understood that on a Tuesday night in February 1971, in a parking lot at NBC Studios, after a Tonight Show appearance that the country had talked about for weeks, her husband and John Wayne had stood under the orange lights and shaken hands a second time. A handshake that no one had seen. A handshake that her husband had never told her about. A handshake that John Wayne had carried with him for the next 8 years, kept in the top drawer of his bedroom dresser in a clean white handkerchief, until he asked his son to send it to her, along with the letter that explained what the handshake had meant. Patrick Wayne lived for 35 more years. He died in 2014. He honored his father's request. He never told anyone about the letter. He never told anyone about the Polaroid. He took the secret with him. Margaret, the nurse, retired from UCLA in 1986. She died in 2004. She told only her husband. Her husband died in 2011. He told no one. The letter remained private for 47 years. Linda Lee Cadwell donated it to the Bruce Lee Foundation archives in early 2026, 2 months before her 81st birthday. With a single condition: the letter could be read, the contents could be discussed, But the original document and the Polaroid that accompanied it would never be photographed or reproduced. They would exist only in the hands of those who came to the archive and asked to see them. This is the story of a man who watched another man be brave on television in 1971 and who carried that bravery quietly inside him for the 8 remaining years of his own life, and who, on his deathbed, decided that his last act would be to make sure that the son of the man who had made him brave would never lack for the means to become whatever he chose to become. The boy died before he could grow into all of it, but the money was there, the promise was kept. The handshake under the orange lights at 12:30 in the morning lasted exactly the length of 1 Polaroid exposure, and then it lasted for the rest of 2 lives. John Wayne is buried in Pacific View Memorial Park in Corona del Mar, California. His headstone reads, "Tomorrow is the most important thing in life. Comes into us at midnight very clean. It is perfect when it arrives, and it puts itself in our hands. It hopes we've learned something from yesterday." Bruce Lee is buried at Lakeview Cemetery in Seattle, Washington, beside his son Brandon. His headstone reads, "Your inspiration continues to guide us toward our personal liberation." They have never met in this life since February 1973 when they had their final dinner at the Quiet Restaurant in Encino. But for 47 years, in a wooden box on a dresser in Sandpoint, Idaho, a Polaroid and a letter sat together in the dark and remembered that they had.